familiar faces. So thank you all for joining. So we're going to dive into creating content that converts. And also I was asked to put a large emphasis on LinkedIn. So since a lot of you work in business or business owners, that's likely where a lot of the selling and connecting does take place. So I do have some examples of some things a little bit deeper into the presentation, but I'm also going to give you a way to plan creating content. So if you are not outsourcing right now, welcome to Liger Partners. Give me a call. We'd love to do that for you. But of course, if you're not there yet, or maybe you're just a one-man band, or you're like, Whitney, I want to get there, but not quite yet. I'm going to give you the insider tip that we do to plan on how to create that content. So content builds relationships. Relationships are built on trust, and trust drives revenue. So I think Andre already said it. I heard it a couple of times already in the call, especially with that Twitter survey of, hey, if you're already following me on Twitter, that means that you trust me. You hit that button, so you actually want to see my content, right? Like we all have a very limited amount of time in our day. So the fact that we go and actually follow someone or friend them or pay attention to what their company is doing is already a hand raise to the fact that we want to hear what that person or that company has to say. We trust them in some form or fashion, or we're trying to learn about them as well to see if we can trust them, because once that trust is built, that is what drives that revenue. So this is your website. It's hanging out in the desert, right? How do people get to your website? Sure, they might be Googling for you or your services, but a lot of time what they're seeing is what's happening on your social media, being it something that's happening personally on your account or your company account. So what our job to do today is find those avenues that takes them off the highway road way out in the back and bring them to your website. So the customer journey, we have awareness, social exploration, comparison, and purchase. And so prior to 2008, when we didn't have this little thing called Facebook or Zoom or smartphones, things like that, all this technology that we have today, it was this very linear journey, right? You would either tell somebody about a service or a business, but there was not really a lot of way to like go and research other companies, right? Typically you took the word of your friend or family and made your purchase that way. Or if you needed some tires changed, or you were stranded on the side of the road, or you needed a plumber, where you'd open up the yellow pages. Yes, I know what those are. You'd pick out AAA whatever and give them a call, right? All you know is you need a plumber. Well, now, because we have social media and of course the dreaded word COVID has really changed this relationship, where we're in and out of this journey. It's not this linear progression where, oh, okay, I want to buy some shoes and I'm just going to make that purchase. No, I'm going to go see if there's a deal. I'm going to compare price. Do they last long? If I'm going to spend this money, what am I getting back for it? So we're going to ask around, do some searches, go look on social, read some reviews before we finally make that purchase. So it takes 15 to 20 exposures to a name, a brand, or idea before awareness is established. And no, that's not back to back. So if you send me 20 emails in 20 days, I'm going to ignore you. But if you drip some things to me, or if I see you every now and then on social media at a regular cadence, that counts to those 15 or 20 exposures. So back to our Twitter poll, that was a great question. 60% of the decision is made before the customer picks up the phone or walks into a store or visits your website to make that purchase. Marketing establishes the relationship and sales manages the transaction. So you've got 5 to 7 follow-ups. Again, if you're connecting with someone on social media, LinkedIn, sending messages, things like that, that's going to establish that relationship, and then sales is an additional piece to that, right? And there's a 6 to 9 month payoff for a content-driven approach, which is a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So you have 4 types of content: awareness, who are you or your company; education, what do you do and why do I care? right? So that's another really important part to that education piece, is that's really great at what you do, but how does it pertain to me? How does it pertain to your target clients or customers? Use, how does it address my problem? And top of mind, remind me why you exist or something else you can do for me. So a great example of this is, I'll take our company for an example. Sure, we do marketing, and that word means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but probably one of the first things that comes to mind is social media. But marketing also encompasses press releases, website. I mentioned on ABGT last week, where many of you are from, that we actually saved one of our clients from a robot that was in the background of their site that kept filling out their contact us form. We saved them on a Saturday. We jumped in, we managed their website. So we took care of it. We let them know on Monday. They never knew and they never had to, because we fixed the problem. So that is all part of that marketing ecosystem. So I focused today on B2B websites, and I told you I was going to give you our insider tip for how we come up for creating 12 months worth of content. So if you need new ideas, and this could even pertain to, I know some of you mentioned you do have an outsourced marketing firm. That is fantastic, because you can still take this and say, hey, here's some additional ways that we can come up with some new content. So I focused on B2B websites. There is one difference if you're B2C, but I'll point that out as well. So for a B2B calendar, you can get away with coming up with just 4 key topics per year. You can extend that for 3 months at a time, a full quarter. So for example, our IT services business here, what they could talk about is bring your own device, cloud computing, blockchain, supporting a remote workforce. Now, that doesn't mean in January, February, or March that they wouldn't talk about blockchain, but what this does is essentially create an anchor or a pillar for the type of content that they would want to talk about for that quarter. So the big difference with B2C is you don't quite have the luxury of getting that extension for the full quarter. You do have to come up with something every month. So think B2C, again, a clothing brand, makeup, shoes, anything like that. This could even be for, individual tax services, right? Like if you're a company going to individual, you have to come up with those very topics, because you are B2C. And so you're putting out more content on a regular basis. You got a little bit more competition out there. And so that could look like New Year's Day, Valentine's. Most people are taking a vacation about June, July. August is back to school. So if your business revolves around those holidays and things like that, you could definitely select those and then come up with content that way. Then you can do, as an example here, so we picked January, and every Monday for this particular company, they have an original post going out. So what I'll share with you that we do at Liger, when we bring on a new client, we will schedule a strategy session with them. And so what we do in the strategy session is part of that activity that we do is we sit down and we say, okay, maybe we have like 5 people in the room. We get everyone to sit down and write down, kind of magazine style, all the topics that they get regular questions on, or that they know is something that's like hot or always trending during that year. So for example, it's fresh in my mind, we just onboarded a local company here in Atlanta that does recruiting services. And so they're talking about recruiting from the employee side, from the employer side. Of course, we've got, how are you hiring now that we're in this digital age? How do you stand out as a interviewee, as a hiree? And basically what we did is everyone got in a room. We wrote kind of those magazine headlines on little Post-it notes. And at the end of about 10 minutes of everyone doing this, if you've got 5 people in a room, you can easily come up with over 100 ideas. Now, some of those are the same or similar, and you group them together. But when you do that, that's what fills these content pillars. So if you had 5 different posts about bring your own device, that's 5 different blog posts, 5 different social media posts. But everyone came up with their own idea. So you can do this at your own company, get like 5 people in a room, 2 or 3, a small group, doesn't have to be everyone. You can do this with yourself. I've even seen it. I had a good friend of mine that wanted to get together. She was starting a new business. And so she literally had her friends over for a wine night, and they all sat around and they said, hey, tell me what would you want to know about my business? What questions do you have when it comes to this particular topic? Tell me what those are. And so they sat down, 10 minutes, it gets you 100 ideas. And then all you have to do is group those together and then plot out what quarter you want to share them. And that is your anchor for everything that you want to share on social media. So when you are doing this, think about, where does your target customer or client hang out? So like a large amount on this call, they're probably hanging out on LinkedIn. So where do they hang out? If they hang out on Twitter, that's perfectly fine too. You just need to know where they're hanging out. I would also encourage you to know that, but to know your second best place. So for example, if they're on LinkedIn, that's awesome, but maybe you want to add Facebook or Twitter. You definitely want to be on at least 2 accounts. To Lee's joke earlier, if you got it at any time, Facebook could go away. We used to have MySpace, not really in existence anymore. So you definitely want to have content in several different places. So if one of those social accounts goes away or anything gets banned, anything like that, you've got content happening in multiple places. Also think about their day. So this could drive what time you post during the day. Most people, they're checking social media, email, their calendars all kind of at the same time. They do it when they log on in the morning when they get to work. They do it right before they get off. And then they're typically checking it again at night when the kids go to bed. Where do they get their information? So are they looking in their email? Are they going to Twitter? That's a lot where I'll kind of skim through and see like the morning's headlines. What are their challenges and frustrations? What are their goals? What's their preferred form of communication? So yes, this can come down to what platform you want to be on, but it could also be, do they prefer to read, or would they just rather have like a 30-second video from you? What phrases and exact language do they use? What makes them happy? What are they looking for to be successful? What are their motivations? And why do they buy from you, really buy from you? So figuring out that second step of why. So these are some of the examples I wanted to share of the types of content that you can put together. So I'll start with this one down here kind of in the center, because it's what we're doing today. Eric Coleslaw is our chief strategist here at Liger and also one of our partners. And he and I tag team a presentation a couple of weeks ago. I literally took my phone out during his portion, took a picture. We shared that on our social media, and it was the most popular post for that month. And it's like, it's not even that beautiful. There's not a human in there, but the sheer fact that I grabbed it in the moment, we were talking about, hey, we're talking about marketing, and we were doing this presentation. It was one of the most popular posts. So not a picture of a salad, but you can definitely do things like that to kind of showcase what you're doing. So another great example of this would be, instead of me just saying, hey, I gave a presentation on marketing today, actually taking a picture of what's happening in that moment, because you're still showcasing that you're the expert in your field without coming out and saying, hey, I'm the expert in my field. If you're being invited to speak somewhere, that speaks for you. The Puff Cuff was a client of ours. They are B2C. And so essentially what we did with them that I wanted to point out is capturing content to use later. So we see back to the earlier question that we had of how often are, I think marketers was the question, creating one piece of content a day. You don't have to create one piece of content per day. You just need to share one piece of content a day. If you posted a blog 2 years ago that's still relevant today, you can reshare that. If you won an award 2 years ago, you can still share that. Just because you share it once doesn't mean everyone saw it. and that content is not old. So you can definitely regurgitate that. This particular post got 22,000 views on Instagram, and we posted it after we had attended this event. So we went to the event, it was a hair show, recorded all sorts of video. I mean, everyone that came to the booth to get styled, we were recording those videos, and we shared that for months afterward. That does not go out of style. It was not old information. We just captured a bunch while we were there and continued to share it across the accounts. The one in the bottom left is me, very similar to that picture in the center. I had attended a networking event myself, wasn't even speaking, but I knew the speaker and I tagged her. As you can see, there was 62 engagements and 22 comments. That was my personal most popular post of the month. And it was just sharing what I was doing, kind of continuing education, learning about building relationships. I took it, I posted it. It wasn't even that exciting, but people like to see people. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know how you're engaging and you're learning and investing back in your people. On the upper right is podcasts. So if you know anything about Liger, we have podcasts that come out every day through the weekday, and we sit down and we'll do a 30 to 60 minute podcast, but that is not where it stops. We record that entire conversation. It gets released on Facebook and other socials. But then what we do after that is cut it into little snackable clips, about 1 to 2 minutes each, and continue to share that over social media. So again, podcasts that I done 3 years ago, we continue to share. My guests share them. I'm continued to be tagged. And essentially all that does is kind of keep me top of mind. It keeps them top of mind, and it keeps that content fresh. Again, nothing wrong with reusing old stuff. The upper left-hand corner is the awesome ladies of ABGT that I went out to lunch with. Again, I think I said something on the post about when you hang out with awesome people, you become an awesome person. Another really popular post. And it was just me sharing the fact that I was out supporting other female business owners. And that performed really well also. So not everything has to be so business focused, but it's still tied back to business because it was a business group. And so I shared the fact that we got together. And then very similar to our podcast post, highlighting True Language here. So if you've not seen their Misunderstood campaign, it is fantastic. Go check them out on LinkedIn and other socials at True Language. But for this, what we did, very similar, where we recorded this full story of a business owner, and we cut those up into smaller clips so that we could promote the series, but pointed elsewhere. So even though the full interview lives on YouTube somewhere else, this was a screenshot from their LinkedIn where we took about a 2-minute clip and pointed back to the fact that, hey, we have this campaign going on. We wanted to spread the word. This is why we're doing this. This is what True Language does. And then pointing back to other places. All right. So I kind of give you a lot of information. I wanted to leave, though, plenty of time for questions.
Leslie, was that a question? Just, okay. So I think, not seeing somebody's hands raised at the moment, just a quick one to start the conversation further. Yeah. Is where to place it. Everything is on LinkedIn. I hear that. How do you optimize? What are some of the things people should be thinking about to optimize? I heard you say something like 8 in the morning and end of the day and then dinner time. Are there things that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to look at it. There are platforms in existence that you can use to schedule posts through that have a little bit more kind of AI built into the background that will also suggest times for you to post. So we use one called Hey Orca. I'm 99% sure they have a free version that as you post, it becomes smarter and it will start to suggest posting times based on what you have been posting and when people interact with your content. So that's like if you want to take it to the second degree, using some sort of platform like that to start kind of intelligently telling you when to post.
Don and Hank, you look inquisitive. Any questions somebody else has got? Go ahead, Brad.
Oh, go.
Brad, your mic.
You're off mute, but we can't hear you.
Okay. All right. So one of the questions that I have is about what about like posting content that's not your own, as opposed to just always like messaging that, hey, here's what I do, here's my services, but posting, what's your thoughts on that? Kind of like
Yes.
the cadence of that.
So if it is, and let me know if this answers your question, Brad, something that we suggest is what we call a best of web. So let's say someone puts a blog on their site and you could agree or disagree with it. Instead of linking directly to their blog so that all the attention and clicks goes to their site, what we would recommend is writing like a short little paragraph or intro about it, stating how you feel about it, putting it on your site. Definitely give them credit, link back to their blog or whatever the case is, but from your blog, so that that's content for your site and you can link to your site. It still gives them credit, but the first place of clickage, if that's a word, if I just made it one, if not, the first place that they're going to click is going to be on your site, and then they can go for themselves and do the research. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You always want to send people to your information as much as you can, and definitely tag them, because that will help as well. If you're tagging their company or whoever authored the original piece, like on LinkedIn and things like that, because of course that notifies them that you did so, but you definitely want to link back to your site first.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do have a quick question, Whitney.
Yes.
So, obviously this is very social media based.
Yes.
So the question is direct mail dead? Do you ever enhance kind of your social media efforts with mailings?
Yes, yes, we do, especially if it is around a specific initiative. So that could be a campaign, or trade shows are coming back. Yay. So if you want to do like some sort of giveaway or invitation, things like that, that match up, I do not think direct to mail is dead. In fact, it's one of those things. It's like the handwritten thank you letter, right? You don't receive enough of them. And so when you do get something in the mail, it becomes more special. The key there is making it stand out and not getting it piled in with the rest of the junk.
Call Mark McKenzie.
Yes, call Mark McKenzie. Absolutely.
Whitney, I've got a question.
Hey, Lee. Yes.
Hey, so say they're engaging with you on social media, and you want to take their information, email, maybe feed it into a newsletter and start to drip that way. I know there are laws, I guess canned spam or whatever that tell you when you can engage. I mean, where is the line for that? Where can you say, hey, they hit me on LinkedIn. Okay, I know their email address. I'm gonna feed them into my newsletter and start sending it out.
Yes. So I will get more information on that for you that I can send, because we have team members dedicated on our team that do that, because it is such a thin line, depending on how many you're adding in at a time. And especially if you get like high numbers of either like the complaints, don't contact, bounces, things like that, then that can really hurt whatever platform you're using. You can get blocked and not be able to send things at all. I do not know off the top of my head what happens and like how many kickbacks you have to have, but I can get that information for you and pass it off. I do know it, and it's become a touchier subject more so in the recent years, I would say. Like it's been a constant thing that we are asked and have to monitor. In fact, we even do, especially if it's a new company that we're coming into, like meaning we are new to them and we're just taking everything over, we will do certain things like testing sections of the list or sending out soft touches, things like that, before we actually deploy a full-on campaign to test it. Because again, if you do get a lot of kickback, you're halted anyway. So it's better to kind of ease in and test it than just dump them in. But if what I will say is, if you have a true relationship with that person, you are more safe than not, right? Like the people that, me as a marketer, I can 100% say this. I don't even respond to the people who are like, hey, I think we have something in common. Want to connect? No, because I know what you want from me. So those are the people that I would get upset with. So if you truly have that connection with them, they're not gonna, push the button against you.
All right,
Thanks.
we're gonna wrap up to respect everybody's time. I did want to, I don't know if it's a quick answer or we can talk some other time, Whitney, about images versus content, about whether you like to include images, or is that a later conversation?
Always include something, images, video, something.
Got it.
Catches the eye.
All right. So in wrapping up, thank you again, Whitney, for your ideas and inputs and the conversation. Upcoming next week, Donna will be telling us about how to thrive in the world, and just coaching yourself. Laurie's talking about different uses of video. Our lead generation roundtable is at the end of the month, and you can see some other events coming up. So it's been great with the people that you've been suggesting we connect with and who to talk to. And we invite you to bring a friend next week and weeks after, because the conversation is really what's about, and getting to know people. And some of you are texting or chatting on the side. So let's keep the conversation going and let's make it a great week. Thanks, everybody. And Whitney, thanks so much again.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Whitney. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
So, Hal, are we staying on?
Yeah, hang on just a second.